Hi guys, welcome back to M-Dubz Report. So far we have covered the lives and accomplishments of several key figures that you should be keeping in mind before the Malawi 2025 presidential elections. However, today we switch it up a bit and take a short break to do something a little different. I'm not trying to be controversial or anything like that, but I've been thinking about how we ended up where we are today. It became clear to me that all our political parties seem to have the same origins or roots. Isn't UDF a breakaway party from MCP? And DPP another breakaway from UDF? Then PP and UTM broke away from DPP. If you're confused, then don't be. It's simple. All our so-called options are not really options. They all have the same roots. Malawi is at such a critical point in its political history, and we really need to get to the truth of what we're facing and how we got here. We don't have the luxury of not taking these issues seriously because the cost of living is rising and economic hardships are increasing. Every Malawian, from the young to the old, those in Malawi and even the diaspora who have to support their families back home, are feeling the heat and the burden. So as the 2025 presidential election approaches, let's educate ourselves. Let's take a journey back in time to understand the important people, situations, and timelines that led us to this point. In this video, I'll cover Kamuzu's era, Muluzi's days, Bingu's reforms, APM's impact, the return of MCP, and the infamous and now defunct Tonse Alliance. Are we progressing as a nation, or is it all the same chaos but just in a different decade? Stay tuned and listen closely. It's the responsible thing to do for you and your loved ones. My name is Brendan, and this is M-Dubz Report. Dr. Hastings Kamuzu Banda ruled Malawi with an iron fist from 1964 until 1994. After gaining independence from British colonial rule, Kamuzu established a one-party state under the Malawi Congress Party, MCP. This era was characterized by tyranny, limited freedom, and a tight control over resources. Political opposition was completely silenced, and Kamuzu's popularity increased as he made himself the life president of Malawi. However, history has repeatedly demonstrated that no matter how powerful a leader may be, once the majority of people are no longer satisfied with them, momentum builds up that eventually leads to revolution. In Kamuzu's case, this shift became evident in the late 1980s and early 1990s, when global changes such as the end of the Cold War and the rise of pro-democracy movements began to challenge his rule. Faced with growing pressure from the domestic protests and international forces, Kamuzu permitted a referendum in 1993, which led to the establishment of multi-party democracy in Malawi. Kamuzu Banda is often credited with liberating Malawi from colonial rule, overseeing key infrastructure developments, and promoting high educational standards. Many also praise him for maintaining a relatively stable and strong economy during his presidency, especially in the early years from the 1960s to the mid-1970s. During this time, Malawi saw steady economic growth, low inflation, and a strong agricultural sector that served as the foundation of the economy. It's important to note that a key factor behind this success was foreign direct investments from countries like South Africa, the UK, and other Western nations. As a firm believer in Pan-Africanism, I strongly oppose several aspects of Kamuzu Banda's rule, especially his decision to maintain diplomatic and economic relations with apartheid South Africa. While many African nations cut ties with the regime over the racial policies, Kamuzu argued that Malawi's economic interests justified this engagement. To me, this rationale highlights the extent to which he prioritized his personal agenda over solidarity with the broader African liberation movement. There were also suspicions and rumors that Kamuzu Banda may have been involved, or at least complicit, in the assassination of Samora Machel, the first president of Mozambique, in 1986. Samora died in a plane crash near the South African border under mysterious circumstances, which many believed was orchestrated by South Africa's apartheid regime. Given Kamuzu's controversial ties with the apartheid government, some speculated that he might have provided assistance or information to the South African authorities. The next major shift in Malawi's political landscape occurred in 1994 with the country's first democratic elections. Bakili Muluzi, a charismatic leader of the newly formed United Democratic Front (UDF), 1. Bringing an end to Banda's 30-year rule. This was a period of hope for many Malawians, as Muluzi promised democratic reforms, freedom of speech, and economic growth. While his leadership initially brought political freedom and a more open society, his presidency was marked by economic challenges and corruption allegations. Poor governance and corruption weakened economic stability, leading to rising inflation and a decline in foreign aid. International donors cut aid due to concerns about corruption, straining the national budget and causing currency devaluation. Throughout his presidency, the government accumulated significant debt, worsening the economic hardship. In 2003, Bakili controversially attempted to amend the constitution to run for a third term. I find this ironic, coming from the very leader who had championed democracy and opposed Kamuzu's extended grip on power. This decision was made with strong opposition, even within his own party, signaling growing political divisions. His era also saw the rise of new political figures and parties, making Malawi's political environment more fragmented. While the UDF remained influential, it faced increasing competition from emerging leaders within the MCP and other parties. A significant shift in Malawi's political landscape occurred during Bingu Mutharika's presidency, marking a period of maturity in the country's democratic rule. This era provided Malawians with a contrast in leadership styles and approaches to financial and economic empowerment. Bingu was handpicked by Bakili Muluzi to succeed him in the 2004 elections, winning the presidency as a UDF candidate. However, he soon broke away to form the Democratic Progressive Party (DPP) in 2005, citing disagreements with Muluzi over governance issues. In the early years of his presidency, Bingu achieved notable economic growth, especially in the agricultural sector. He introduced the successful Farm Input Subsidy Program, which significantly boosted agricultural productivity. However, as his presidency progressed, he was perceived by some as increasingly authoritarian, cracking down on political opposition and civil society. This shift strained his relationship with the donor community. Bingu also attracted attention when he publicly opposed the IMF's recommendation to devalue the Malawi kwacha, arguing that such a move would worsen the living condition of the poor and that Malawi should tackle its economic challenges through its own strategies. Shortly after, Malawi faced fuel shortages due to a lack of foreign currency, leading to nationwide protests in 2011 against his government. His sudden death in 2012 left Malawi in a state of political uncertainty and paved the way for his vice president Joyce Banda to assume the presidency. Bingu's term demonstrated to Malawians the potential for transformative leadership, highlighting the importance of having a president who is not only well-educated and well-intentioned, but also truly understands the Malawian economy and knows how to improve it. Many regard him as Malawi's best president to date. However, his death sparked conspiracy theories suggesting Western involvement, although these claims remain speculative, with the official cause of death attributed to a heart attack. Following Bingu's death, Joyce Banda briefly served as president before being defeated by Peter Mutharika, Bingu's brother, in the 2014 elections. For a detailed analysis for their presidencies, check out my other videos on this channel. Moving on, the next significant shift in Malawi's political landscape occurred in 2020 when Chakwera, leader of the Malawi Congress Party, won the presidential election as part of the Tonse Alliance, a coalition of several opposition parties, including UTM led by the late Saulos Chishimba. This alliance was celebrated as a pivotal victory for democracy, bringing hope that Chakwera would bring about a new era of reforms, transparency, and economic recovery. This has not been the case. This period marked a major transformation in Malawi's electoral process. Previously, elections were conducted under the first-past-the-post system, allowing a candidate to win the presidency with the highest number of votes, even if it was less than 50% of the total. However, in 2020, the 50% plus one rule was implemented, requiring that a candidate must receive more than 50% of the valid votes cast to be declared the winner.
Why is it so important to you?
The reality is that the choice of a political leader in Malawi, especially the presidents, has historically been influenced by factors such as region, tribe, and religion. Under the odd first-past-the-post system, a candidate from a populous region or tribe would win without securing a majority of votes. The introduction of the 50% plus one rule changes this dynamic considerably. Political parties now need to form alliances to increase their chances of electing their preferred candidate. This shift represents a positive development. However, it's crucial that these alliances are founded not only on trust but also on legal agreements. I believe this could limit the tendency of multiple parties to pursue the presidency independently, a factor that has previously obstructed Malawi's development. Personally, I support the 50% plus one rule. Just so you know, I'll be creating a video highlighting Chakwera's presidency in my upcoming content, so be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay updated. We are currently witnessing a significant shift in Malawian politics, with both new and established political figures taking on significant roles in the country's political evolution. We have seen Kondwani Nanguma, a former DPP executive member, launch his own political party, PDP, and has expressed the intention to contest in the 2025 presidential election. Meanwhile, Michael Usi has stepped into the role of acting president of UTM following the passing of the late SKC and has been appointed as Malawi's vice president. This transition, as observed, has triggered internal leadership struggles within UTM, with Matthews Ntumbuka and former DPP member Dalitso Kabambe vying for the party's presidency. Additionally, we know that Frank Mwenefumbo, Enoch Jehana, alongside his deputy Timothy Ntambo, and various leaders of smaller parties are also pursuing the presidency. In MCP, we have seen Catherine Godanihara appointed as vice president, marking a significant step towards women's empowerment in Malawian politics. So, what can we make out of these developments?
Just listen really closely.
Malawi's political landscape is becoming more fractured, with numerous small parties and independent candidates preparing to contest in the 2025 elections. However, questions remain regarding their ability to build up sufficient support. Many of these parties and independent candidates appear to be positioning themselves for potential alliances as the presidential elections draw near. Parties like the DPP and UDF are struggling to evolve with the times. The DPP's rigid structure, which prevents youth, women, and new voices with fresh ideas from taking serious leadership roles, is concerning. This does not bode well for the party, especially considering that recent data indicates that about 50% of the population is aged between 10 and 35 years. Moreover, from an outside perspective, the party seems to operate as a personal property of the Muntarikas and their closest allies. As long as you don't cross them, you're fine. The UDF's declining influence should also raise concerns about their relevance in Malawi's political future. The party appears to have similar characteristics to the DPP, seemingly belonging to the Muluzes family, and lacks the innovation needed to attract capable Malawians to join and support it. The MCP has claimed to have reformed since the Kamuzu era, but it seems that little has changed. They continue to engage in tribal and regional politics, supported by a PR system that presents the party as progressive, when in reality it is not. Malawians are now more aware, and the politics of fear, lies, and pretense will not succeed in the long term. One of the most urgent needs in Malawi's political future is a shift away from tribal and regional voting. Calls for unity and a national identity are growing louder as the next election approaches. But is Malawi truly ready to move past these old divisions? Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section of this video. While Malawi has made significant progress, there is still room for improvement. For a small country, consolidating political forces into fewer, stronger parties may be the key to stability. Furthermore, youth and diaspora involvement is critical for the nation's future. Bringing educated, patriotic young Malawians into leadership roles could break the cycle of old political mentalities. Finally, a strong and an unbiased opposition is essential to hold the government accountable and ensure that progress is made regardless of which party is in power. As we look towards the 2025 presidential elections, the question remains, can Malawi's leaders, political parties, and people unite for the common good? Only time will tell. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to share and subscribe. Zikomo.